Hey friends, and welcome back. It is actually the end of week 6, and week 6 was a reminder to me why I do what I do. So if you remember in some of my previous videos, we made freezer meals together, and let's just say we really utilized those meals in week 6. So Sam was down. He was pretty sick. I was not feeling that great and was kind of helping taking care of him. And so overall, I was tired. I didn't want to cook. And so it was the perfect week for us to literally live off of freezer meals. So I would lay out a freezer meal in the morning. We would have it for dinner that night and then lunch for the following day. Then have another freezer meal that night, lunch the following day. It worked out really, really well. And then in the morning, I would either make banana protein smoothies or banana pancakes. It was so easy, and we really didn't have to clean up anything. We didn't have to cook anything. And it was such a blessing to just know I was tired and I didn't need to cook. So I would use this as a reminder to you to, if you have a little bit of extra food laying around or you have a day that's kind of slow, maybe make some freezer meals and pop them in your freezer, just because you never know what life's going to throw at you. You never know when you're going to get too busy or forget to lay something out, and you can cook these freezer meals from frozen. So it was honestly such a blessing. It saved us a ton of time and money. We didn't have to run into town to grab dinner, especially when we were kind of feeling under the weather. So it was a total blessing. We ate through pretty much every kind of freezer meal we have put up: meatballs, enchiladas, meatloaf, you name it. We were probably eating it last week. So it was such a blessing, and that was a perfect way to close out the pantry challenge, mostly because we didn't have that much fresh food to eat anyways, that we needed to eat. So it worked out really well to be able to get some of those freezer meals out, know which ones we really enjoyed and which we will be making again. I will say the enchiladas and the lasagna were a huge hit. We eat the meatballs all the time, so we love those as well. But I definitely felt very lucky last week to have those all ready to go, so I didn't have to put much thought into it. So I'm now going to walk you through our refrigerator, show you how we ended up the pantry challenge, and give you an insight into what our refrigerator looks like now, along with our freezer. I kind of just want to show you a recap of everything we went through, and then I'm also going to talk you through whether I thought the pantry challenge was worth it and what we're going to buy now to restock our pantry. So let's jump into our refrigerator. All right, friends, this is a real and raw look into our refrigerator. So you can see this is all we have. We have a few canned items up on that top shelf, and then just some sriracha that we got for Valentine's Day. And then up in that bin, we normally keep Arrow's dog food up there, but I just haven't pulled more out of the freezer yet. Then we have one bag of carrots left, a little bit of milk, some coffee creamer, and a little bit of tomato sauce. Our chickens did start laying eggs again, woohoo! So we have a couple eggs, and then you can see our cheese did pretty good. I do keep a pretty good stock of cheese in our freezer, so I wasn't super worried about that, but that's a look at everything we had left in our fridge following the pantry challenge. Then, looking down in our freezer, this is our inside freezer. You can see we have just some frozen fish. We have the vegetables that are all on that right side of the bottom shelf. And then up top, we have some of the peaches, some frozen fruit, and then a good amount of cheese up there. So we also have some meatballs hidden up there. But overall, we did a really good job. Like I mentioned before, when we started this, it was literally bursting at the seams. So here is just an overview in our garage freezer. Okay, here is our freezer that we were really focusing on eating through, and we did a pretty good job, but I do think it's crazy that we ate out of this freezer for an entire month and we still have a ton of food. So you can see on that top shelf, a ton of our freezer meals are gone, all from last week. So that is a big blessing. We literally just have those left. So there's one up here too. Then you can see we did a pretty big dent in our walleye from that walleye dip. We went through a few of those. We only have about 4 left, and that has to last us through till May. So I think we'll be just fine there, but we definitely made a big dent there. We do have a lot of steaks left, and our burger. You can see down here, we did a pretty good dent. This half is only our burger, and then this half is our onions from the garden. So I do need to bring in a few more bags of the garden onions, just so I can remind myself that we need to eat those and we have them here. We don't always have to use fresh onions. So that is kind of where our freezer currently stands. We really didn't touch the other freezer. I made some of the maple sausage, so I used 1 pound of that, but for the most part, we didn't really touch it. So it is pretty chilly out here, so I am going to go ahead and get this shut, and then let's do a quick recap on my thoughts of the pantry challenge. Okay, so the question I have received the most is, was the pantry challenge worth it, and did we enjoy it? So overall, we loved doing the pantry challenge. It honestly was fun to be creative and to think about ways to cook our food in different ways, especially because a lot of the food that we like to store is pretty basic and it's all kind of pretty consistent. So we enjoy tomato products, beans, rice, meat, potatoes, some vegetables here and there, fruit obviously, but for the most part, we keep it pretty basic. So we honestly enjoyed it. It was a really good way to not only challenge ourselves, but to get a lot of the food out that we have needed to. I feel like we made a really big dent on the inside fridge and freezer. That freezer was bursting at the seams before we started this, and now it's like halfway empty. So we made a ton of progress there. And then the reason I decided to go 6 weeks instead of 2 months, which my original plan was 6 weeks, was to make sure that we weren't totally depleting all of our storage. So as a lot of you know, food is kind of in a weird situation right now. The grocery stores are kind of weird right now. So I wanted to make sure that a lot of the food that we already have stored up remained there and that we weren't kind of getting rid of all of our storage. So we depleted a lot of it, but we still have a really good amount of food. So that's kind of why we decided to do the 6 weeks instead of 2 months. In terms of food that we ran out of quickly, yeast was one of them. We ran out of yeast really fast. We've never really gone through yeast that quickly, but when you're baking everything, you go through it really fast. So I learned that I want to have a lot more yeast on hand, along with milk. I was, for lack of a better term, really milking the milk that we had, or trying to make the milk we had last. And that ended up being kind of a challenge because I didn't realize how much milk we actually have or use. Another thing that we ran out of pretty quickly, which we have a 5-gallon bucket full, is rice. I knew we were pretty low on rice, and that's why I didn't make a lot of like fried rice or meals with rice, but we did end up running out, so I'll be replenishing that and our tomato products. I'm really hoping that our tomatoes do really well this year. Last year we had a freeze when I was out of town, and so our tomatoes all died off really, really early before any of them could ripen or before I could get them off the vine before the freeze, since I was out of town. But you'll live and you'll learn. So I'm hoping next year we can get a lot more tomato products out of the garden. We enjoyed a lot of our condiments, our pickles, ketchup, that kind of thing, hot sauces. So I'm really hoping next year we can work on getting our hot sauce kind of piled up or stockpiled up from the garden a little bit better. And then fruit. My biggest thing that I missed was fruit. If you looked in the freezer, you noticed that we did go through an entire bag of the frozen peaches that we had, but I just love fruit a ton, and fresh fruit particularly. So we have a lot of our jams preserved up. We have a lot of frozen fruit, so I was making a lot of smoothies and just things out of the frozen fruit, but I definitely missed fresh fruit. So that was just another thing to know, and good for me to know about us, is that's something we also enjoy. So overall, absolutely loved this. We are going to continue on in a couple of weeks our What's for Dinner series, so you'll be able to see kind of what we're eating every week. Hopefully it will give you a little bit of inspiration and give you a couple of ideas. So that's really it. Thank you guys so much for following along on this journey. If you haven't, please make sure you are giving this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing so you don't miss any more of our gardening or cooking videos, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye, friend.